Welcome in, everyone. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and welcome into a late night victory Monday, almost Tuesday morning. So, Ravens got a victory out in LA. They went in, beat the Chargers 30-23 in what was a somewhat back and forth game. Not really a back and forth game as much as it was a early control by the Chargers. Ravens sort of sputtering on offense, defense doing enough to hold it down. The first drive was a little yikes, but they kind of calmed down a little bit. But they ended up getting the win, like I said, 30-23. So a much needed win, a bounce back win after the Steelers debacle from the week before. So real quick, I wanted to go through just some of the stats, some of the things that we saw in this game, some of the players that really stood out. Um, so going through this, first off, Lamar had another efficient passing day. Didn't have to do too much. The ground game was definitely in full effect for this game. Which in the preview for this game, I was very pleased. I was looking forward to them doing that. So I was very pleased about their effort to make the run game prominent. And once again, like I said in my preview video, Henry again, he touches the ball over 20 times. He's over 100 yards, 24 for 140 yards. It's 5.8 yards per carry. He had a long of 27, but it just seemed like every time he got it, if he wasn't hitting the backfield, which he did have a couple of those, reminiscent of the first couple of games. But when he did get the ball and he did get ahead of steam and he had decent blocking, again, it was chunk plays. When Derrick Henry had the ball in his hand, he was getting chunk plays. So that's what I said when we started this, is that the Ravens need to keep the run game included from early on and keep that going. So Lamar finishes the day passing 16 of 22, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked once, passer rating of 126.5. He did start the day a bit rough. He started off 2 of 6, and it was looking a little shaky. He did have some accuracy issues. He was kind of missing some guys high. But the second half, again, once the Ravens kind of settle into their groove offensively, the second half is, if the game is at all close, the second half is the Ravens' bread and butter. They are an excellent second half team on offense. They really start to wear down teams with that run game if they've been using it. Again, Derrick Henry, over 20 touches, over 100 yards. That's a correlation that we've seen a lot this year. This is the sixth time that we've seen him reach over 100 yards, and in 5 of those games, he's gotten over 20 touches. So really huge for that. Justice Hill, I mean, the 51-yarder was phenomenal to see. Not only because obviously just teams even having that on tape, he goes 4 carries for 55 yards in the touchdown. But the 51-yarder is something that, again, everyone looks at him as a change of pace back, sort of, not really as much as Mitchell would be. But again, he's out there, it's a passing down. But he puts on that display, and all of a sudden, teams have to kind of consider things a little bit differently. Yes, he's still going to be used primarily in passing downs or blocking, but again, the fact that he can pull that out, and then once he got into the secondary, he hit that burst, and nobody was going to catch him, which is great to see that explosiveness from Hill. Really, again, another fantastic signing by them during the season. Lamar ends the day with, I mean, he had 2 kneel downs, but he ends the day with 8 of 15 for 1.9 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. So he did have one weird, I believe it was in the fourth quarter. It was a weird play. I think it was on a second down or third and long or something like that. I think it was second and long. And it looked like it was a designed run, but there was no blocking for it at all. And he got swallowed up immediately at the line of scrimmage. Not sure what that was about, but obviously the touchdown run was just Lamar basically being the most impossible player to try to get to on the field. He also did try to pull, if you know Lamar tape from back in high school, he tried to pull a vintage Lamar move where he just holds up at the line and the guy goes by him, but still vintage Lamar. So as far as the receiving numbers, fairly quiet today. Fairly quiet day from the receivers. Zay Flowers goes 5 of 8, 62 yards. He did have a long of 25, but fairly quiet day from him. Andrews was a great security blanket in this game. He had a couple of big third down catches. He had the touchdown. He ends the day going 5 for 5 for 44 yards and a touchdown. Bateman, again, sort of quiet day on the receiving day. When the run game takes over and they're using the run game, it's a quieter day for the offense from a passing perspective. but he does haul in. He goes 2 for 3 for 43 yards and a touchdown. That 40-yarder was a beautiful concentration catch by him. And Bateman he's like an anomaly or paradox or something, because he'll have a pass that'll doink right off of his face mask in one game, and he'll look like he shouldn't even be out there, like his professional job of catching the ball, and he can't do it. And then he'll have a catch where a guy is draped all over him, arms through his arms, and he makes a falling catch onto the ground. And I'm like, I don't know if there's two Batemans. Maybe they're identical twins, and one is out there one game and one is out there for the other. I don't know, but whoever's making the catches, let's have them show up at least for the playoffs. The rest of the guys out here, Tylan Wallace, again, he has one catch, one target, one catch, 15 yards, and it was a good play. Again, the Ravens still continue to put themselves behind the sticks. The penalties are still an issue. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Justice Hill, 2 for 2, 7 yards. Charlie Kohler, he had that one underneath pass, 1 for 1 for 6 yards. And Deontay Johnson, I don't even remember this, but he was targeted once, did make a catch. Tucker, back to what he was doing. He wasn't really tested too much. He only had one kick for 45 yards, but he did nail it and was right down the middle. Hit all three of his extra points as well, 3 for 3. So, but a couple other notes that I wanted to bring up about the offense. So, again, I mentioned Henry and him running the ball. Again, 5.8 yards per carry. And earlier on, his average was actually even better than that. So, this is what I was saying, not just in the preview, but when the Ravens not fully commit to the run. I'm not saying they turn into 2019 where the run is the run and that's all that they have. But when you utilize the run and the pass off of each other, but the run is being used frequently enough that it is threatening on any play, that is when Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are their most effective and they're the most dangerous. They make the defense hesitate because, again, if they're not running Derrick Henry and you know they're not running Derrick Henry and you've got Justice Hill in there 2 out of 3 downs, they're going to be bringing guys. They're going to be putting on pressure, or they're going to be dropping 6, and Lamar's just going to have to scuttle around until he either runs it out for 3 yards or he makes a pass in completion. So using Derrick Henry frequently, at least threatening with Derrick Henry, because you know he can break one at any point, is huge for this Ravens offense. But yeah, I mean, so Lamar, again, by MVP standards, he had a fairly quiet day. He did have a pass rating of 125.6, or sorry, flip that, 126.5. But again, fairly quiet day, didn't need to do a lot. His percentage on the day was about 72%. So again, just another efficient passing day where he did what was needed. And when he had to step up, he stepped up, right? And I mean, the touchdown run, I feel like, again, we are so spoiled as fans watching Lamar Jackson week in and week out, because if any other quarterback, maybe save Hurts and Allen or something like that, maybe Kyler Murray, but if any other quarterback makes that play, it's the highlight reel of the week. And for Lamar Jackson, it's just like, oh, he rushed for this touchdown. It's his 3rd of the season. So moving on. So it's just we become almost desensitized to what Lamar Jackson does. Well, to your point in the comment, pass rush not really there. They did get him on the ground. They did get him Herbert on the ground 4 times. So I mean, again, to say that the pass rush wasn't necessarily there, Brandon Stevens was way more active in the pass rush than I think I've ever seen him in this game. Not only did he get a sack, but I saw him in there a couple times in the backfield later in the game, especially. So whatever they're doing with the secondary, where later on in the game we had Stevens back there, but we saw Jalen Armour-Davis, who had a little bit of a ticky-tack call there at the end in the end zone. But before that, JD was actually playing quite well. Tre'Davious White was still playing well. Marlon Humphrey's playing well. Wiggins is playing well. They held it down very well in the backfield. Herbert, he ended the day 21 of 36, 218 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked 4 times, passer rating of 75.9. So again, the Ravens secondary follows up probably their best performance of the year against Russell Wilson and the Steelers with another great performance against Justin Herbert. Now, again, we can say what we want about the Greg Roman offense and the passing schemes versus the running schemes. J.K. Dobbins going down early, I think, was a huge hit to this Chargers offense. I mean, he ends the day 6 rushes for 40 yards. He was averaging 6.7, and it looked like the Ravens were having a really hard bringing him down, really hard time. But having said that, um, honestly, Malik Harrison did a good enough job in filling in for Roquan Smith. Again, if I had my pick, obviously Rowe would be out there, but he ends the day with 12 tackles and a tackle for loss. So decent job staying in the middle, doing what he was supposed to do. We didn't see him out in coverage too much. The middle of the field is still a little bit soft in their zones where they let some of the tight ends slip through. Some Lad McConkey got through there a couple times. Um, but honestly, not terrible overall. Wiggins ends with 6 tackles, 2 passes defended. Tre'Davious White has 3 tackles with a pass defense. Marlon Humphrey, 3 tackles, pass defense. So overall, it was a solid effort by the defense. I feel like the touchdown at the end of the game was, again, if you're watching the scoreboard, it looked like the game was closer than it was. And even the announcers, which, by the way, side comment just for me, I am so glad to get a nice break from not having to hear Joe Buck for the next however long because I am so sick of hearing him talk. But, just a solid effort by the defense. And I won't say that's all that we need. If the offense continues to start some of these games slow, it is going to be necessary for the defense to step up. But this offense, once it gets its legs under itself, the defense just has to be average. Seriously, the defense, especially in the secondary, they just have to be decent. If they can just bend but don't break, keep it to field goals, whatever. But once this offense gets rolling, the defense does not have to be lights out. It doesn't have to be the 2023 defense. Even if it's coverage sacks, that's fine. He does need, yeah, exactly. He needs a better TV commentator. Buck, I mean, I'll never forget the first time that I heard Buck calling like his famous game was just Vic. It's just it's garbage. But anyway, it's probably harder to do than it seems. So Ravens end with 389 total yards. They did win the time of possession battle, which they were losing very much so early on. To start the game with 2 3-and-outs is going to be tough. So the fact that they were able to bounce back from that, keep it within they were down 10-0, bounced back, and before the half took it to 14-10, or 14-13. So that was huge. Just to see again, not even the resiliency necessarily, but just that the play calling and whatever changes Todd Monken and Zach Orr are putting in are working. And the players are adapting that. They're executing that. We outrushed our passing. So it's kind of interesting to see that again today. 212 rushing, which it was above that, but then they had the 2 kneel downs at the end. So 214. Passing yards, 177. We tied them on first downs. The issue that I'm still having with this Ravens team and its offense, defense, didn't see as much of it on special teams, but we did once actually with Nate Wiggins. But the penalties are something that they have to get right. They have to figure this out. 9 penalties in this game as well, and it's just I don't know what you call it at this point. I don't know if you want to say that it's like you can say that it's coaching, you can say it's preparation, you can say it's okay if they're making the same mistakes over and over and over again, it's got to be coaching. But if it's the same players making the same mistakes, I don't know how you can constantly call blaming for coaching for that because I mean Makari is he get called for the hold a couple of times and it's a couple times a game. And that holding call pretty much stops our drive almost every time. So when the offense, especially in the second half, if the offense gets rolling and we're going back and forth with teams, those types of holding calls that are drive killers, that could completely flip the momentum of a game. Again, we've seen the Ravens, they've had, 3 drives in a row where they'll get a touchdown, or they'll have 2 drives with a touchdown and then a field goal and then another touchdown, whatever it is. But getting those types of penalties and killing those drives when they're on a nice roll, they've got momentum, and the other team isn't completely flat, that's an issue. So, um, but a couple other things that I want to talk about just for the defense, is I do think they were again, they were solid in this game. I don't want to overstate it and say they had some phenomenal game. It was sort of what I talked about in the preview, where it was a very safe game. There was no turnovers by either team. Which again, if you're the Ravens after last week's game, no turnovers is fine, right? We can win a game if both teams commit no turnovers. That's fine. We win that game, 7 out of 10 times, in my opinion. But again, just to see, we held them to 77 yards on the ground, which having J.K. Dobbins not out there for the second half was, I think, definitely impactful for that. But they could just get nothing going on the ground at all, especially in the second half. We had all the momentum and we kept the pressure on them. And I think that was something that we definitely didn't see last year. And I would say we probably didn't see enough of early on in the season, which combined with our secondary issues early on, definitely let some teams get back in the game. The Dallas game comes to mind for that, especially. But the defense played well. The second half, we saw the secondary stay tight in coverage. There was a couple of ticky-tack calls, but they also picked up a couple of them that I thought were worth being picked up. The Marlon Humphrey one on the sideline, it was an incomplete pass. I don't know if you would say that it was pass interference or not. I mean, there was definitely contact back and forth. The hand fighting typically ends up going the way of the receiver. We know that, but they picked up the Stevens flag, which um, I think was the right call to pick that flag up because the ball was not catchable. It was way over everybody's heads, and the contact between the two guys didn't end up affecting the play at all. So, um, going into next week, I mean, the Eagles are going to be a hard game. It's going to be a hard game. It's going to be in Baltimore, which I mean is like what, an hour and a half from Philly, 2 hours at most. So it's not going to be. It'll be a home game, but I'm hoping we see mostly Ravens faithful out there, um, because this Philly team is definitely going to be a challenge. I stand by my statement that I made in the video a couple weeks back now. Lamar is still the clear favorite for MVP over guys like Hurts, over guys like Barkley, over guys like Allen and Goff. Um, but this Eagles game is going to be sort of the Bills and Ravens game from earlier this season as far as who is the dominant team as far as running the ball and as far as sort of having a mobile dual threat backfield. Um, so we'll see how that game goes. The Ravens defense against Saquon Barkley, stopping him running the ball, stopping him getting out to the flat, that is going to be huge. Stopping AJ Brown is going to be huge. And it's probably going to be, honestly, it might be the hardest game that the Ravens have this season. And just from a fit standpoint, I think it's going to be a very difficult game for both teams because I think the Ravens match up well against the Eagles too. Our offensive line is going to have a hard time with their pass rush. Um, but I do believe I saw Graham. Graham is he's done for the season. So that is definitely going to have an impact to their game. But excuse me, overall, I'm really looking forward to the Eagles game. Nervous about it a little bit, but again, if this same Ravens defense comes to play against the Eagles, and if the offense can continue to not even just stick to their identity, but if they can commit to the run, if Lamar can stay accurate and make smart decisions with the ball, we're a second half team. So we're gonna play them tight. We're gonna play them well. Um, yes, yeah, exactly, exactly. To your point, the Chargers defense is better than the Eagles. The secondary of the Eagles is kind of what gives me pause because the the turnover differential was great for the Chargers, but Lamar's a very accurate quarterback. To your point earlier about the coverage sacks, that's what I worry a little bit more about with the Eagles. I worry that Lamar, not is going to be too safe with the ball. I don't want him to take shots if he's going to throw into double coverage or triple coverage. But if everyone is covered and he has to take off, those coverage sacks start to become a little bit worrisome. We saw that with Pittsburgh. So I'm hoping that the weather is good. It's going to be a little bit interesting this weekend, so I'm hoping the field is in good condition by uh, the next game. But um, looking forward to that game. I'll be probably putting out my preview for that. Hopefully, I'm going to try to get it out by Wednesday or Thursday, so be on the lookout for that. Um, but yeah, another great win. Ravens are up to 8-4, and you know it's all in front of us now. And the Steelers, what the Steelers end up doing, and how the rest of the season goes, whatever happens, if we can play the same type of football we came in with this night against the Chargers, then I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the rest of the season. If you guys enjoyed this post game breakdown, go ahead, give it a like, share with other Ravens fans if you care to, subscribe if you're new around here, and go get some sleep, guys. Stay safe out there. Have a good night.